What is up, my degenerate gamblers? Welcome back to the Undefeated Post-Weigh-In Show. It's the best damn show of the week. We've got UFC 287 tomorrow. We have broken this card down forwards, backwards. We called in the experts. We got the sharp action analysis. Like, we've got it all. This entire thing is laid out before us, and now we get to the good stuff. We're gonna stuff the money in the bag and run. How's everybody doing? We've got Colby Saul in the chat saying, best part about Friday, number one is the Undefeated post-weigh-in show. Number two is getting paid. And number three is the weekend. That is what's up, baby. How's everybody doing? Hans Grout, we've got Josh Locks. What's up, my buddy? Air Dog, UFC Shell, not Shill, Shell. Joe Free, we got Bufo on the beat, MD, Fender Jazz. Everybody is piling up in here. Absolutely love it. All right, guys. We have got to get to this action. If it's the first time you've ever seen this show, first off, welcome to the best damn sports betting show for MMA on the planet. Subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the like button. We're going to go back over this fight card. We're looking at these fighters on the scales. We're watching them face off. Any extra little tidbit of information, weakness on the scale, tough weight cuts, figuring out who's actually bigger and smaller, not going off the stats, but seeing them size up with one another, all very important. Adding that extra little sprinkle of oregano on top of the pasta that is your betting card for UFC 287. Lines are brought to you by Superbook Sports. This is Pub Sports Radio. Let's get into it. First fight of the night. Jacqueline Emerim taking on my girl Sam Hughes. Emerim made 115.5. Sam Hughes 116. And I got to tell you guys, I filed for divorce papers. I've got this signed Sam Hughes walkout jacket, and my wife cleaned my office the other day and boxed it up somewhere. I don't know where it's at. So that's on her. It should be here. If Sam loses on Saturday, it's my wife's fault. I just want you all to know this. Jacqueline Emerim, honestly, staring blankly, slack-jawed, like she looked bad up there on the scales today. She looked like that weight cut was really rough. She gave a slight little wobble up there on the scales. After they called it, she did manage a smile. She walked off. She moved okay. She was just exhausted when she went up there and made the weight. That's the kind of weigh-in with a UFC debutante. We got to kind of put a pin in, because does she always look like that when she weighs in? Does she always have really rough, bad weight cuts and we just got to get used to it? Is this another Jose Aldo type situation where I try to bet against them because they look like death is waiting for them once they step off the scale and then they're fine come fight night? I don't know. We got to figure that out with Jacqueline Emerim, but I did not like what I saw on the scale. Sam Hughes, on the other hand, gave a big flex and a big old smile. She was happy as could be up there today. No issues whatsoever. Looked like her weight cut went very, very well, and she was feeling herself too. When they went to face off, Sam Hughes is the slightly larger fighter, and she was smiling the entire time up there. She is ready to go. The problem is I can't quite bring myself to bet this money line. I told you guys, I think the plan is live bet. I think Sam, as long as she survives round one, if she can get out of that round one onslaught, then she's gonna be okay. I think Emerim is gonna look a lot like a Mackenzie Dern. If you guys remember, public enemy number one, right? Like, I've done everything I possibly can to lose my retirement gambling against Mackenzie Dern because she just wasn't that good. She didn't have any wrestling. She didn't have any striking. But once you got to the mat with her, it didn't matter. It was over. You never stood back up. She changed sub after sub after sub, and she tied your legs up, and she dragged you down, and she made sure you never got back to your feet. That could be Emerim in this spot. So, like, Sam Hughes could play the perfect game plan, make one slip up, and then get heel hooks. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's the fear for me here. So I want to bet this thing live. I want to see Sam defending the takedowns. I want to see Sam defending the distance, even if I'm getting a plus 150 or something like that on her, if she's up around going into round 2. That'll be fine for me. That'll be fine for me. I just don't want to light money on fire if Amorim really is the next big thing stepping in here into the UFC cage. Steven saying Gastelum kept his shirt on. That is an interesting note. Looked like he's headed for the pool like some of my uncles. Air Dog likes Amorim inside the distance. My guy D in the house. What's up, buddy? Thank you very much for coming to hang out. And asking why I didn't go with the full face paint. First off, I'd probably be canceled because I'm a white dude doing tribal face paint. That wouldn't go over very well these days, I don't think. Also because I didn't think about it and I didn't have time to prep. I was going to get a dog collar though. I did the dog collar for the thumbnail, if you guys saw. I was trying to find one real quick that could fit around my neck, but my dogs are like this big, so I couldn't I couldn't make it fit. All right. Next fight up, we got Steve Garcia taking on Shayilan Nordbecki. We've got 145.5 for Steve Garcia, 146 for Shayilan. Steve Garcia gave a solid, one arm pumping type of flex. He looked really good up there on scale today. The only issue is he did have like a little discolored bump on his chest. It kind of, we see fighters get staph infections and stuff like that all the time. I mean, I'm not sure if that's what it was. Maybe he was playing paintball and he just got shot on the collarbone or something like that. We don't know, but it does raise a little bit of a question as to the health of Steve Garcia right now. Shayilan Nordbecki, big old deep breaths up there today. Now, this is one of those muscle tank type of fighters. He's got so much muscle on his body. These are really tough weight cuts. Fight in and fight out. We always know it's a struggle for him. When they called his weight, he stuck his arms up like this. There was no flex. He was not up there, giving a good solid, flex and showing the muscles off. He was just like I put my arms up, take the picture, let me get out of here. He was sucked out bad in his face. I think he's okay. This is another one of these guys that does this and then ends up fighting all right. Now, there's a height advantage for Steve Garcia. You love to see it. Shayilan, obviously, just, shorter and wider than pretty much everybody. So I worry a little bit about the staff. I got plus 175 on Steve Garcia. I did bet him earlier in the week. Over on Superbook Sports, he is down to plus 165. And if you guys missed the Sharp Action report, it's right here on Pub Sports Radio. Make sure you go check it out. I was joined by Andrew from Superbook. He's the risk manager over there that deals with the UFC. And he went through the whole card with me. One of their sharper bettors did jump on Steve Garcia. So that always makes me feel a little bit better when the guys who are, winners long-term with the Superbook that have a good relationship with a big sports book, when that guy's on the same side as me, especially on a dog, that gives me some confidence. I love it. Steve Garcia by sub is sitting at 12-1 on Superbook Sports. And I know he's more of a knockout guy, but I could see a panic takedown from Shayilan. I could see a club and sub. We've seen Shayilan get subbed 6 times over the course of his career. I may have to just sprinkle a little bit on that 12-1 sub prop because I think it's one of those ones where it's totally possible. And Capper Tracker, I do a custom thumbnail for each of these shows, so I'm not mocking anybody. They're just for fun. So pump your fucking brakes, kid. Ignacio Bahamondes taking on Trey Ogden. Both guys made 159.5. This is a 160-pound catch weight. So both guys came. I thought for a second that Bahamondes had missed weight. When they called it, I was freaking out for a second there. But he came in, huge smile, looked great, very relaxed, gave himself a nice little fist pump. I'm so high on this kid. I can't wait to see what he does. Trey Ogden looked okay, no emotion on him, got off the scales really quickly. He strikes me almost as like an introvert type. You know what I mean? Very cerebral. I'm not super surprised he had kind of a muted time on the scale there today. I think that might just be how he is. So I'm not looking too far into it. He's got Bahamondes is going to have a decent height advantage here in this spot. So I'm very much looking forward to this fight. I don't like the number on Bahamondes. I mean, I think he's obviously parlayable. I am picking him to win. I'm not a big fan of Trey Ogden, but as I've said literally the entire week, I also am just not super comfortable on Trey Ogden just yet. I don't have a great read on what he does and what he doesn't do. So like, yeah, I'm not ready to go here on this one. I'm picking Bahamondes. I would almost caution people, like everyone I think is ready for Bahamondes inside the distance. We see the highlight reel spin kicks and shit like that. You love to see it. I'm not sure he's catching Trey with one of those. This might be a decision. This might be like a 15-minute technical striking battle between these guys. So I'm very much looking forward to that one. What's up, Adam in the house? Buffo, yeah, Steve absolutely did look huge up there next to his man. You love to see it. All right. Ladies fight up next. Cynthia Calvillo, 116 pounds. Lupi Godinez, 115 and a half. Cynthia Calvillo was the last one on the scale today. Gave us a nice little heart attack. I talked about this fight. I was like, man, I'm not even convinced that this fight is happening. Like, until I see Cynthia Calvillo on the scale, forget that. Until I see Cynthia Calvillo in the cage tomorrow, I will not be surprised if this fight gets pulled, because she's had trouble making this weight her entire career. She looked green. I'm talking jaundice. I had a couple people message me and be like, Cynthia looks great. I'm like, does she? Like, she looked legitimately off color to me up there. Like, the blood was drained out of her. That was very, very concerning to me. She was wobbly on the scale. You could tell she was weak and just holding it together up there, which is exactly what I was hoping for, because I've got Lupi Godinez inside the distance. I've got her by knockout at 8-1. The power she showed off against Angela Hill, I think she's going to make Cynthia Calvillo wish she had not tried to cut the weight. Now, obviously, Calvillo looked much, much better after rehydrating when they got to the ceremonial face-offs. She looked better. She does have a size advantage on Lupi, but I still think Lupi is going to be the physically stronger of the two here in this spot, and Lupi looked fantastic today. Absolutely fantastic. No issues for her making this weight class whatsoever. So I'm in on Lupi. I like Lupi a lot. I actually parlayed Lupi with the Tampa Bay Rays from like a couple of days ago. They absolutely crushed, and I was like, they're minus 270 or something. So I need like a parlay piece to hook up with the Rays. And I just threw Lupi in with a baseball bet. So I've got more exposure to Lupi than the actual MMA record for my betting is going to show. I like her a lot here in this spot. Next up, Chase Sherman and Carl Williams, the big boys. Chase Sherman weighed 149 and a half. I'm sorry, 249 and a half. Carl Williams weighed 241. Chase Sherman looked slick up there. I'll be honest with you. Kid cleans up nice. Got nice slick back hair, feeling himself. You love to see it. Carl Williams, big old classic heavyweight, no problems, very relaxed, but he damn near broke the scale. He like jumped off the scale onto the stage for God knows what reason. He thought that was an okay idea. He had to like apologize to the guy operating it. It was pretty freaking hilarious. They size up. Slight size advantage here for Carl Williams, which was a bit of a bummer, but Chase looks like he's really feeling himself in this spot. Now, I jumped in early in the week on this one. I've got one unit on Chase Sherman at plus 380. I hold my nose and just going, you know what? I'm not impressed with Carl Williams. We haven't seen anything from him that lets us know he's a true UFC caliber fighter at this point. He beat a guy on the Contender Series that didn't want to be there. He beat a guy in his UFC debut that's obviously not UFC caliber. And now he's facing Chase Sherman, who you could argue is also not UFC caliber. However, he's got the much higher level experience. I'm going to fade the new guy coming in that kind of a situation, especially on short notice, every time. I think Carl Williams is going to get the takedowns, but I think Chase Sherman can get back up. And once they're up on the feet, I think Chase is the cleaner striker of the two. And I mean, it's one of those ones where how often do I have to be right at 4-1 to be able to have that break even here? So I'm holding my nose and I'm taking the plunge. He is now down. Chase Sherman, that is now down to about plus 310. So I beat another line move there. That always feels good. Not sure it matters on this one. We'll find out on Saturday if it matters or not, if I beat that line move here. All right. Everybody do me a favor. If you're rocking with me live here, there are 54 of you. Smash the like button for me and subscribe here at Pub Sports Radio. Become a member if you would like to. My guy Danny's in the chat. What's up, buddy? Thank you very much. Got a couple members rocking with us in here today. Gerald Mearshart taking on Joe Pyfer. Both guys made 185 and a half pounds. Gerald Mearshart, face looked a bit rough today. He's got that scraggly beard, but homeless Gerald Mearshart is the best Gerald Mearshart. Like, you can't ever really say shit about how Gerald looks because he just gets in there and drags his opponent into deep waters and kills him anyway. Joe Pyfer, very intense on the scale today, gave a huge flex. This guy does have a slight size advantage here in this spot. And both guys super smiley on the face-offs today. It's one of those ones where they both have the same secret. They both think that they're going to have something for their man. This is going to be a great fight. Personally, I am very square here. I am very public here. I like Joe Pyfer. I think he knocks out Gerald Meerschaert. We've seen Meerschaert struggle with these types of fighters before, with these types of hands before, but we also know exactly what Gerald Meerschaert is capable of. If you're not quite ready yet, and Joe Pyfer is being rushed here by the UFC, he will drag you into the second or third round, and he will tap you out as soon as you make a mistake. So I'm going to be cautiously watching this fight. I'm picking Joe Pyfer. I'm picking Joe Pyfer by knockout. I haven't bet it yet. I'm not sure I will, quite frankly. But Gerald Meerschaert by sub, Gerald Meerschaert round 3 sub, those are almost mandatory bets in my opinion. And the number one sharpest better that Superbook works with is on Gerald Meerschaert. And that's a man who I refuse to be on the opposite side of, by the way. He's got such an incredibly high hit rate. When my guy Andrew tells me, our guy bet so-and-so fighter, I'm off it. I'm either betting the same side as him or I'm not going on the other side of it. Like, those are the only two options. So it's either tail him or pass for me. I'm picking Joe Pyfer. I don't think I'm betting this fight. Luana Pinheiro taking on Michelle Waterson Gomez. Pinheiro 115.5. Michelle Waterson is 116. No problem at all for Luana. Big flashy smile on the scale today. She looked good. She knows what she's doing up there. Michelle Waterson, my favorite mom monster up there. Have you seen her thighs? I've been posting pictures on Twitter of Michelle Waterson all week. I got to tell you guys, my first girlfriend, like my first big ex, you know, the one that like ruined my ability to love for several years after we broke up, my high school sweetheart, she was a cheerleader. She was like the head of the cheer squad. You fuckers thought my ugly old ass didn't have any game. I was dating the head cheerleader in high school, and she was gorgeous. Anyway, she had calves, my boys. Let me tell you, I don't know what it is, but because I dated this girl when I was young, I'm addicted to muscular legs. If you look like you've got a grapefruit shoved in your calf, but you can still have like look okay in a dress, like it's not so muscular that it ruins that, I'm all about it. I can't handle it. So Michelle Waterson has my number today. They size up really well. In fact, Michelle Waterson actually has a slight size advantage in this spot, which I found interesting. I have said time and time again that Waterson, if they made a 105 class, she would be a title challenger and potentially the champion of that weight class. Shoe in. No problem. Easy. She's too small in the UFC for most of her opponents. Luana is smaller than she is. That was surprising to me. I thought Luana was actually going to have a slight size advantage rather than being slightly smaller than Michelle Waterson. So this is a spot where I see a lot of love for Michelle Waterson in the betting sphere this week. It almost makes me a little nervous that everybody's piling in here on the same side. I think this is going to be a low volume pick and poke type of striking match. I think this is going to be a very close fight where the judges have a hard time deciding who the winner is, and one head and arm throw might be the difference. So I think I have to pick Luana Pinheiro in this spot, being the younger fighter, being the more explosive fighter, but at the same time, Michelle Waterson actually has a decent wrestling game on her, and we saw Luana gas out against Randa Marcos when she went to that head and arm throw multiple times. I can see the value of betting Michelle Waterson. I think Michelle Waterson round 3 is interesting because we have seen Luana gas out. I think Waterson's sub at 950 is interesting. She's not much of a finisher, but if you've got a girl who's primarily going to look to grapple with her and potentially has a gas tank concern, Michelle can find that rear naked choke. We've seen her do that. We've seen her do it before. And that round 3 is 30-1. So like, if you're looking to degen out on maybe the worst fight on the card, I think there's some big plus numbers here that you might be able to find there. Asher saying round 3 for the culture. Like I said, it's got to happen, man. Got to happen. What is up, my guy Josh? Glad you found the humor in the thumbnail. I feel like I'm hitting my stride there with the thumbnails here. And you know what, Active? That's a great question for PFL. It's the regular season, so it actually might just be a 3-round fight. Drew in the house. What's up, buddy? How you doing? And Jacqueline joining the party. How you doing today? Thank you all so much for rocking with me here live on the post weigh-in show. Next up, we got Kelvin Gastelum and Chris Curtis. And this is, I'm just tied in knots about this fight. No problem for Kelvin Gastelum. Made 185 pounds up there. Very relaxed. Chris Curtis gave his classic, how does he do that? I'm gonna have to send him a tweet of me doing his pose. 186 for Curtis. He's talked about focusing on adding muscle, packing on some additional pounds since he's going to stay up here at 185, and he looks good. He was wearing it really well, actually. Slight height advantage for Chris Curtis. This is another thing that kind of surprised me here in this spot because Kelvin Gastelum never is the bigger man, right? Like KG never has a size advantage, but neither does Chris Curtis. And it's kind of a talking point for me that I'm like, okay, like you can say Kelvin's used to being the smaller guy. That's fine. But Chris never gets to be the bigger man. This is going to be really interesting to see how this fight plays out with Chris Curtis actually having a size advantage over his opponent because it simply doesn't happen. KG right now is minus 135 over at Superbook. We've got plus 115 on Chris Curtis. And I set the line at plus 120. I said, if I get plus 120 on Chris Curtis, I am firing, period. Like, he's my guy. He's one of my all-time favorite fighters. I think he's got the tools to win this fight. This is exactly the type of opponent that Chris Curtis does well against. The problem for me is the massive steam coming in on Kelvin Gastelum. Now, again, referencing the show that I did with Andrew, it's not just the sharps that are betting Kelvin. It's the public also. It's one-way action. It's a freight train of both sides betting Kelvin, which is very confusing to me. Like the fact that nobody at all is on the Chris Curtis side and he opened the favorite, like I might just have to plug my nose once again and rock with my boy Chris Curtis. I think this fight's going to be close, folks. I really do. I think it's going 15. I think it's going to decision. And I think the split decision might actually be a half decent bet because you'll get those minutes versus moments type of situation. I think Kelvin Gastelum will be slightly higher volume. He will probably utilize the wrestling. And then you're going to get Chris Curtis that's going to rock him with big body shots and stuff like that, stealing those big moments away. I think the judges are going to have a hard time figuring out a winner here, which is why I want plus money. No matter how I bet this fight, I want plus money. So I'm either betting plus money on Chris Curtis or I'm betting the split decision prop. If you're laying chalk, do fight goes the distance. That's the only chalk I want in this fight whatsoever. So that's the way that I'll be looking. And I also think the decision props are off on this one because you can get Gastelum by decision at plus 150. Chris Curtis by decision is plus 230. Like, I don't understand why Chris is $1 worse than Kelvin if this makes it the full 15 minutes. He's gone 15 before. We've seen that he's not finish reliant. And as long as you're not simply jabbing and running, he's going to be in that fight. So, yeah, we'll see. And we got a couple more comments here about KG not taking the shirt off. Yeah. I mean, let's be real though. He's never really been the most physical fighter out there, so I'm not sure I buy too much into that. Like, he never looks super impressive on the scale to begin with. He's just got one of those wide body types. You feel for the guy. You gotta understand as a husky dude, it happens. Next up, Christian Rodriguez taking on Raul Rosas Jr. Christian Rodriguez made 137.5, bro. Missed weight. He did take the extra allotted hour, came back, only cut another half pound, still missed at 137. Did not look happy. Now, I've had a couple people message me and say how bad he looked up on the scale and stuff like that. I don't think he looked bad. So talking with some of the guys over at Fight Ready, they kind of called that he probably was going to mismanage his weight and miss here. But I don't believe it's going to do anything to affect his fight. He came in on short notice against JSP and took that guy for 15 minutes, no problem. So, like, missing by a pound or two and just being upset at yourself, I don't think is the same thing as a rough cut because he didn't look like he was dead on the scales to me. It didn't look like a rough cut to me, I'll be honest with you. So, interesting spot here. Now, Raul made 135, no problem. Did the old discount double check, which of course, because that stupid Aaron Rodgers commercial, I gotta call it that, gave a huge flex. This kid is feeling himself, and he's big. He's big. I thought these guys sized up pretty well when they did the press conference. You know, they both had their clothes on, and I actually thought they looked about the same size. Raul Rosas Jr. has a decent size advantage here on Christian Rodriguez, just like back and shoulders wise, like physically speaking, he's not that much taller, but he's meatier. Raul Rosas Jr. is a minus 240 favorite. C-Rod is plus 200. I got plus 195 on C-Rod. I did go ahead and throw a bet out there, and I am sprinkling that sub prop at 11-1 for C-Rod because, guys, all this comes down for me is that Rosas is incredible, but he's 18. He's 18 years old. And I know that's like you've been hammered with that week in and week out with this fight lead up, but 18-year-olds make mistakes. This kid could be the best 18-year-old fighter we've ever seen. That doesn't mean he can compete with the high end at the UFC level. People are not big on Christian Rodriguez. They don't think he's very good. He's 1-1 here in the UFC. Looks like he caught a fluky sub in his last fight. But go back and watch that JSP fight. Go watch the JSP fight. He out scrambles JSP, who is the premier grappler of this division. Like, JSP is headed for a title. He's on a rocket ship for the top 5. And this kid took his back in the 3rd round on short notice and almost choked him out. I'm sorry if it's controversial. I don't think that Raul Rosas Jr. is as good a grappler at this stage of his life as JSP. Maybe he will get there. I'm not ready to pronounce him the best grappler in the division yet. So I'm taking the shot here. I know people who took the shot fading the 18-year-old kid last time on Jay Perrin. What is wrong with you people? That wasn't the spot. This is the spot. So I think C-Rod is going to put this kid through the ringer. Whether or not he gets his hand raised at the end of it, we'll find out. But I think this is the time to take a shot. I would have felt better if Christian Rodriguez had done his training camp at Fight Ready and had been on weight. Those two things concern me, but I still think I got to go. He's a dog that'll fight for your money. Kevin Holland, 170.5 pounds, taking on Ponzinibbio, 171. Kevin Holland was no fun today. And I talked about this on Monday. I was like, I think Holland is out for blood this week. Like, I think he has a legitimate like chip on his shoulder. He's not big mouth. He's not talking. He's up there like glaring at everybody the whole week. I love it. You've got Ponzinibbio coming in excellent shape. I don't want to, belittle what that guy's done whatsoever. He's a very professional fighter. He's in fantastic shape. He looks like he's ready to go. But I'm very much in on Kevin Holland this week. Height advantage for Holland, obviously. We always know Holland's going to have a height advantage. Pons is up there smirking. He's feeling himself. But Holland was very, very angry today. Yeah, I got Holland inside the distance, plus 150 for 2 units this week. I really think he's going to come back and prove a point here. You got Santiago Ponzinibbio, who almost got finished not once, not twice, but 3 times against Morono, the Great White. Holland hits so much harder than Morono does, and he's a BJJ black belt who actually uses it sometimes. Like, I just think Holland is going to show out on Saturday. There's nothing at the weigh-ins that made me change that opinion. In fact, it reinforced that we're getting an angry, motivated Kevin Holland in this spot. So, yeah, I think this is the spot. Next up, Rob Font taking on Adrian Yanez. Rob Font made 135. Yanez made 135.5. Rob Font took the sunglasses off before he got on the scales. That's a good man right there. Good on you, Rob Font. Now, he looked sucked out, but not so bad. He's okay. Moved well. Not worried about it. Adrian Yanez had some crazy eyes up there on the scale. I think he had like a half a heartbeat there where he thought they might say he missed weight or something, and it looked like he was about to have a heart attack. He's okay. As soon as they called weight, no problem. He's good to go. These guys are both really amped up. The respectful face-off, but they size up really well. I actually thought that Rob Font was going to have a height advantage here. My brain tells me that Adrian Yanez is one of the smaller fighters in this weight class, and he's got a slight size advantage over Rob Font. And on top of that, he's more well-muscled. He's much thicker. That kind of changes my opinion of this fight. And I know, it's skills first, size second. Size does not always matter if you've got a legitimate skill edge on your opponent. But when you've got a close fight, size matters. And I think this is a pretty close fight. Like, Rob Font is going to have the volume, obviously, but he's incredibly hittable. He's been dropped 5 times in his last 2 fights. That's not a good look. And Yanez looks like he has insane power. We'll find out on Saturday just how insane that power is. I think this is going to be a bit more of a technical match. He wants to be the first guy to finish Rob Font. I think he's capable of it if he lands a big counter shot. But I also think Rob is going to make this fight very tough on Adrian Yanez and is probably going to out-volume him. So it's going to be a matter of him finding that sweet spot. I think if he lands, it'll probably be later in the fight, round 2, round 3. I don't think Adrian Yanez is just going to blow over Rob Font in that first round. I'm picking Yanez to win. But this is another spot where, folks, I am not touching this line. Minus 180 on Yanez when he's taking up a ridiculous step in competition. Like going from the guys he's been fighting to Rob freaking Font, this is a massive jump. Now, yes, it speaks to the UFC's confidence level in him. Yes, it speaks to the star power. Yes, it speaks to what they think he's capable of. But he's got to actually get in there and win. We've seen these steps up fail before, and it takes 1 or 2 tries for some of these fighters to get there, especially because he believes in his power so much, especially because he's been so reliant on finding that kill shot. If he doesn't find the kill switch on Rob Font, he very well could lose a decision. So I think this is dog or pass from a betting perspective. And dare I say, if you're going to bet Rob Font, take the extra juice and bet him by decision. That's plus 270. On the flip side of this, like I said, I wouldn't lay it personally with Adrian Yanez, and I've got a hard time seeing him win a decision. I would be looking at Yanez by knockout if I was going to bet anything on Adrian Yanez. Now, the plus 270 for him to win by decision, we've seen Rob Font lose those decisions where he gets rocked a few too many times, and that's how he loses the fight. Totally possible. Totally possible. But I think that Adrian Yanez has got the killer instinct that if he hurts Rob Font, unlike Chito Vera, who's just super chill about it when he gets somebody hurt and throws a flying knee and backs off, Yanez will go in for the kill. I think if Yanez hurts Rob Font, it's over. He will go in and he will destroy his opponent if he gets the opportunity to. Andy asking if Jay Parent went public on IG. Probably not. That poor guy. I really do feel bad about Jay Parent, the poor guy. And Guard Down asking how much does the guy have on GM3? I do not know. All I can tell you is that the number 1 most profitable bettor at Superbook Sports. That's it. I don't have names. I don't have numbers. They don't, provide me with any information like that. That'd be a breach of, obviously his trust. And it's not a HIPAA violation, obviously, because we're gamblers, but same idea, right? Like he can't tell me how much this other guy is betting over there. But I would assume if it's a guy who's long-term successful and the best bettor they have, it's probably a decent chunk. And they very much listen to what he does and move the lines based on his actions. So just so you're aware. Co-main event, Gilbert Burns, George Masvidal, 170 for Burns, 171 for Masvidal. We've got Gilbert with a big old cheesy smile. I almost did the Gilbert fro for the for the thumbnail today. I was this close. He was flexing before they called the weight. I mean, this guy is like feeling himself today. When they were doing the weigh-in show and they talked about how good Masvidal looks and he like showed his stomach. He's like, bro, I got like 300 abs. Like, I love Gilbert Burns. He's freaking hilarious. Masvidal absolutely dialed in. He actually looked fantastic up on the scales today. I'll be honest. He's looked like he's kind of phoned it in his last couple performances, but he does look motivated. He does look in shape here coming into Saturday. The only thing here for me, we see this time and time again. These fighters who are on their way out, they've taken a couple L's. They want one more run at the title. You know what the one thing they can control is? How good of shape they're in. They don't change anything. They don't have any new wrinkles in their game. They haven't prepared differently. They got the same team around them, the same coaches. Nothing's different. They're just in better shape. And they think that'll be enough to get them there. He's 38 years old. I really believe that Masvidal's ship has sailed. Now, Gilbert Burns does have some chin concerns. So Masvidal absolutely could just bank him one on the chin. But Masvidal also can't defend a takedown to save his life. If Gilbert Burns goes to the wrestling, which I believe he will and should, he probably ends up on the ground in a hurry, and Gilbert Burns either pounds him out or taps him out. I think we're going to get the retirement walk from Masvidal after this fight. No matter how good he looks, doesn't matter to me. Burns actually also has a size advantage. Now, Masvidal was barefoot, so they actually size up pretty equally, but that was another thing that surprised me. I feel like Burns was supposed to be the smaller fighter. Like in my head, I still can't get it out of my brain that Burns used to fight at 155. So I still feel like he should be smaller, but he's actually the same size, if not bigger, than Masvidal here in this spot. They size up really well. It's a good look. And of course, you've got the goofball asking the betting questions at the presser the other day. Apparently, 60+% of the money is on Masvidal here in this spot. You got to expect that coming in, right? Like everybody, all the casuals are going to bet on Masvidal. That just makes me go, sweet, it's Burns season. Like, you know what I mean? If everybody's piling in hand over fist, if you're going to bet Masvidal, I would suggest the knockout prop personally. I think that's kind of his only path to victory here. It's plus 750. That is a nice, fat, juicy number. I don't know that he can survive 15 minutes with Gilbert Burns. and not get a finish. If he is landing at all, like Gilbert Burns is not going to let this be a kickboxing match. He's not. It's going to go to the ground. If somehow Masvidal can defend that takedown and keep this thing standing, Burns's chin can't hold up to 15 minutes on the feet with Masvidal. And frankly, after what we saw Usman do, I'm not convinced Masvidal can take 15 minutes with Burns on the feet either. So I don't really believe much in the Masvidal by decision. That's just me personally. Take that with a grain of salt. Do what you will. But I think it's going to be Gilbert Burns. I think the sub makes a lot of sense. And a ground and pound, guerrilla style TKO makes tons of sense here for me as well. Okay, next up, main event time, everybody. Alex Pereira taking on Israel Adesanya. Pereira 185, Adesanya 184.5. Alex Pereira was stoic as ever on the scales today. Eastern Island stone face man. Definitely way sucked out, though. He gave us all a little bit of a scare. He was breathing heavily on the scale. He had a tough weight cut. I think this might be the last time we see Pereira at 185. Win, lose, or draw, this man might be too big to keep trying to make this cut here. Now, Israel Adesanya was the first to the scale, on the other hand, and looked extremely intense, locked in. And to go ahead and touch on the comment we received earlier in the show to anybody wondering about the dog collar in the thumbnail, it comes from a Jet Li movie. It's not in any way racist, you dumbass. It's from a movie where Jet Li is a trained martial artist killer, and the dog collar signifies when he's allowed to go fight. They take it off, and then he's allowed to get intense. And that's what Israel Adesanya was signifying when he wore the dog collar, is he's ready to be unleashed on Saturday. It's an ode to a freaking martial arts movie, you goofball. And honestly, folks, I completely believe Israel Adesanya this week. I haven't done it yet. I'm betting Izzy. I'm betting the under. I want to see where these numbers are going to go. I've been watching very carefully this entire week as this number plunges by the dip, if you will, on Israel Adesanya. He is the younger fighter coming into this rematch. He damn near had Pereira out of there via first round knockout in the first fight and ran out of time. He took his time. He played with his food. He knows he's capable of finishing this guy. He's the one who can make tweaks and adjustments more so than the older fighter can. The older fighter has gas tank concerns and is having rough weight cuts coming into this thing. I believe the younger man is going to be the one who gets his hand raised. We will have and new on Saturday. Israel Adesanya gets his title back. I've got minus 135 right now at Superbook Sports. And again, we talked about this one with Andrew from Superbook. It's been hand over fist, one-sided action. Both the sharps and the public, everybody's on Alex Pereira, and that's because he's the underdog champ. I've said myself, it's disrespectful to make the champ the underdog. I believe that. I really do. But when you've got a guy in Israel who can win both the minutes and the moments and won 90% of the last fight and is the younger fighter, I think that all lines up to him being the favorite, and I think he should have been the favorite. And with a different referee in the cage the first time around, he survives another minute and wins the title. So I think Israel Adesanya is the right side. I really do. I think he should be a bigger favorite than this, and I'm going to run with him here in this spot. The under 4.5, I think, is very interesting because even if Adesanya does not finish, I think we've seen time and time again that Pereira can. He's got that insane power, and I do think the way Israel Adesanya is talking, he's going to come in much more intense in this fight. He's going to put his foot on the gas pedal. This fight, I believe, is going to start a whole lot faster and end a whole lot quicker. Because of that, I think the under 4.5 is actually a really, really solid bet. So I like violence. If you don't want to pick a side, I think the under is a good bet. And if you do want to pick a side, I'm with Israel Adesanya personally. That's just me, folks, and I can't get the damn hat to sit still. That is the Undefeated post-weigh-in show. Oh, Asher going round 1, 15-1. Woo! That would be a gorgeous score, Asher. I will be rooting my ass off for you for that one. But I was looking at being a little bit more of a coward and just taking Israel by knockout at plus 350. Getting 350 on the guy who ended Rob Whittaker when he decided to come out and put his foot on the gas. I don't see why he can't do it here again. So yeah, I like Izzy, and let's go. Let's go violence, baby. that was the Undefeated post weigh-in show, everybody. Thank you all so much for joining me. Hit the like button. I've got some PFL action for you. Let's wrap up the show with that because there is PFL, and actually those fights start in like 40 minutes. I looked into the card today. I've got Martins at -150. I've got Yorgan De Castro at -135. Maurice Green at +220. I have Rizvan Kuniev. I'm sure I'm not saying that right, but you guys can figure it out. Inside the distance, +105. I also took him for a sprinkle on the sub prop at +380. This guy is a Dana White Contender Series fighter. Got the win. Looked awful. Flabby, fat, out of shape. Went over to Eagle FC. Flabby, fat, out of shape. Got the win. But now he's coming to the PFL, and he hooked up with Vitor Belfort. He's juiced to the gills. He has a power gut now. He's on every steroid in the book. He's going to take this guy down, and he's going to finish him on the ground, I believe. And then I'm on the lad under 2.5. I think Aspen finishes, but her opponent's actually not that bad. That's -130. And then I did go ahead and chalk up and lay the wood. Pacheco inside the distance at -180. I think Julia Budd is awful, frankly, and Pacheco is Amanda Nunez incarnate. Like, she has both subs and knockouts. I would think it's knockout, but I think sub is possible because of the way Bud likes to grapple. So I'm going to lay the extra juice at -180 rather than the -110 on the knockout. There's PFL for you degenerates that stuck around here for the end of the card. Nunya, my guy, what's up? Thanks for jumping in. I'm sorry you're late. You'll have to hit that rewind button. Active A, I do think Lad can get the finish. I've got the under 2.5. I'm assuming it comes from Lad. It could come from the other girl, but I'm assuming Lad is going to be the one who goes ahead and gets it. Oh, Asher, you're from New Zealand. Okay, that makes a ton of sense. I still think you're on the right side. You know, hometown bias aside, I definitely think you're on the right side there. Everybody, before you leave, hit the like button for me one more time. If you're on socials, give me a follow. Obviously, I'll be tweeting my final card out for the UFC card probably this evening, tomorrow morning, you know, one of those times before kickoff, obviously. And if you're an audio listener, I don't talk to you guys enough. Do me a favor, leave me a 5-star review here on the podcast. I would definitely appreciate it. And come hang out with us on Twitter. It's a fun place if you just hang out with the diehard crew. Everybody else sucks, but we have some of the best people to interact with in the MMA game. All right. Oh, Buffo asking why De Castro and Green. So because De Castro actually has like crazy power, he didn't really get the opportunity to showcase it in the UFC very much. He was super newbie and they were throwing him in the deep end. I think he's developing, and I do think he's going to be able to go ahead and knock his man out. You know, his opponent, it was a short notice scramble situation. He's facing the grappler, what's his name? UFC dropout Danilo Marquez. And I like Marquez's grappling game. I really do. I like his submission game. He's big, he's strong, he's powerful, but he's got a bad gas tank. And Jorgen's hard to take down. Jorgen's really freaking strong. So I actually think that he's going to come in for a takedown, fail on it, and then get nuked by Yorgan De Castro. And then you were asking about Green. This is a plug your nose spot, folks. Marcelo Nunez. He's this big, flabby, fat Brazilian dude. He won on the PFL playoffs, the PFL playoff series a couple months ago. You know who he beat? Bevon Lewis and Dylan Potter. Bevon Lewis is a UFC washout who's a 185er who fought him up at heavyweight. And Bevon was kicking his ass. This guy has no striking to speak of, and he's a pure jiu-jitsu guy. There's no wrestling to go with his game either. So he got beaten up for 15 minutes by Bevon Lewis. Bevon, being the smaller man, couldn't handle the weight difference, made a mistake, slipped up once, and got tapped out. Dylan Potter is awful. He's another guy that came from the Contender Series, and he got taken down. Or actually, I don't want to say he got taken down. I think they ended up in a scramble and just kind of fell over. He got tapped out by this guy in round 1. So Maurice Green, he's a black belt. I know he's not anything special. He gets stuck on his back. If you put him on his back, he's got no answers for you. But this guy can't put him on his back. This guy can't wrestle him. And Maurice Green has such a massive height and reach advantage here in this spot. I think he'll keep the distance, whether he gets a knockout or whether he just kind of pieces this guy up for 15 minutes and wins a decision. I think this is a very winnable fight for Maurice Green. Everyone likes to bag on the guy. He's not that bad. Like, I think Nunez is one-dimensional and also bad. So there you go. All right, everybody. I'm going to try and sign off again for the 15th time. Love you guys. Good luck on all your degenerate action. Crush this week, and we'll see you tomorrow. Make sure you tune in here to Pub Sports Radio for the Fight Companion. Let's roll.